Welcome to the Saturday Night Cigar Lounge on Vigilant Liberty Radio.
And hour number 2 of Saturday Night Cigar Lounge here on Vigilant Liberty Radio. I'm your host, Taylor Millard. I'd like to thank Fred Van Linty for being on the last 30 minutes or so to discuss everything that he's doing at Valiant Comics and some of the creator-owned stuff that he's doing as well. Now very happy to have the president and CEO of Open Carry Texas. That would be CJ Grisham. CJ, welcome to Saturday Night Cigar Lounge.
Great, thank you. Thanks for having me on. It's a privilege and honor.
Well, I really like discussing Open Carry because I spent about 5 years of my life from 2008 to 2013 in Arizona, which is an open carry state. And when they decided when the talk about open carry really started here in Texas, and really some of the history of gun laws in Texas is fascinating to look at. I mean, to think that just almost 25 years ago, we were or about 30 years ago, we barely had concealed carry. Now it's almost, now open carry has a chance of passing. That's got to be a good feeling, right?
Yeah, it's got a great feeling. This all started off about 2 years ago, and HB 700 was being debated. And keep in mind, I just moved back to Texas to get stationed at Fort Hood. So this was the first real legislature that I was able to take part in because I was in Afghanistan in 2011. And so when HB 700 was being talked about, George Lavender had submitted that bill. I had contacted, the only organizations I knew of here in Texas, which was the Texas State Rifle Association and the National Rifle Association, and said, hey, we need to get this HB 700 because it was just sitting there. It was just floundering. Nothing was being done with it, and really there were barely any pro-gun bills that were being debated except for campus carry. And the response I got was, from the TSRA was, open carry just isn't a priority of ours right now, and really nobody cares about open carry. And that sort of floored me. I'm thinking this is the lobbying organization in Texas that is dedicated to trying to bring us back our gun rights and allowing us to open carry like 44 other states. Actually, it was 43 at the time. Wasn't a priority. I mean, it boggled my mind. I mean, you would think that campus carry was a much more one of those things that was politically challenging than open carry would be. And so it was just a few months after that when I kept getting the cold shoulder and people telling me that open carry isn't a priority, open carry isn't something that Texans care about. And, I vowed to change that.
And
here we are.
Yeah, and in seeing how open carry Texas has grown from what it was to what it is now, that's something that you built. Have you been surprised how many Texans are in favor of open carry?
I'm not surprised. I think it's just an issue that was never really debated on a grand scheme, and we wanted to make that a public discussion, and we wanted to find out really, and let our legislators know that really, I thought there really was a great deal of fanaticism and support for open carry, and that's what we kind of set out to do. And we started out really rough. It was kind of by accident. I mean, it's not like after talking to the NRA and the TSRA that, oh, you know what, well, I'll show you, I'm going to create my own separate organization. It was one of those things where circumstance related to my arrest sort of made a reality when we did our first event in Temple on June 1st, 2013, and the response was so overwhelming. So we started discussing, there's a lot of people that care about this. Let's try to formalize it. And it really started right here in Temple, Texas, a little small town. We used to, just a few of us would sit and meet, and we were just a Facebook group. And, we bought the website name, and we had a really terrible terrible website up, and for the first 6 months, it was very unorganized. We were trying to get our feet underneath us because we were growing just incredibly fast, and we didn't know how to deal with that. I mean, none of us have ever done what we're doing today, and so it's been a lot of trial and error over the last year and a half. And I think the product of that today is we've become a more well-oiled machine. We've still got some burrs that we need to smooth out, but the bottom line is it's a passion. And, we don't need $1 million donors to fight for our cause, and we don't need, paid memberships and those kinds of things. And that's another reason why we've grown so fast. And we've been sustained on member donations who have just given of themselves whenever we needed something. For example, we needed a trailer to put all our stuff in, and to really, as we travel the state, people knew who we are here, and people know who we are where we're going. But in between those places, we had no way of advertising. So we did a fundraiser to get a nice trailer that we could trail behind us with all of our gear and our merchandise and all of our flags and those kinds of things. And then from that, the road, people would see OCT walking, driving down the road, and our website would be on there. And so that's really, I think, also contributed to our large growth and a bit of controversy.
You mentioned the burrs that have been going on. There was one situation that happened. I know that Charles Cook from the National Review, and Cook he's a fan of open carry. He likes open carry, but he pointed out something that the NRA said, that a Phantom NRA employee said last year, which was basically saying that it's downright weird and certainly not a practical way to go normally about your business while being prepared to defend yourself, talking about carrying of the long gun. At the same time, some of that issue has to do that the law in Texas allows open carry of long guns and black powder pistols, but not the open carry of firearms, of handguns. Isn't that what you guys were kind of pointing out?
Yeah, that's about the only part of the NRA statement that made sense, was that it's not a normal activity, and it absolutely is not a normal activity. And what we wanted to do with regard to the long arm, it's not about a bunch of guys running around scaring people. The point was our mission statement, the second point in our mission statement, has a very important word in there called condition. And what that is, Eric Holder talked back in I think it was early 90s, about needing to brainwash kids to be afraid of firearms. And so we need to undo that brainwashing through a series of conditioning. And so we decided, well, look, we need to draw awareness to open carry. No one's going to really see an empty holster. We want people to understand who we are and what we're fighting for. So let's do what we can legally carry. And really this idea came from, going back to my arrest and on March 16th, 2013, I was arrested while lawfully carrying a rifle out here in the country. I wasn't even near much civilization. I was just walking out in the country with my son on a hike and along a highway, and next thing I know, I'm being accosted by police officers. And I'm thinking, you know what, if the people driving by don't know this is legal, and if the police officers don't know this is legal, we've really got an education problem in this state. And so that was sort of why, we started doing that, because it was legal. And we could draw attention to the absurdity, the just utter craziness that is, I can walk around with a rifle that can reach out and touch you at over 450 meters out. And I can't carry a pistol that can only go about, 50 meters accurately, if that. And so we intentionally tried to draw that attention, and we continue to do that. And now, instead of just raising awareness, because what's great about what we were doing is initially in the first 6 months, we had about 23 arrests all around the state. for completely lawful activity. Now, all of those except for one have been adjudicated in court or the charges were dropped. And, of course, that one was mine. But not counting mine, every one of those cases has been dropped or we've won in court. And because of those arrests, we had 911 calls all the time. Almost every time we did an event, there were 911 calls. And so one of the things that we learned quickly was, you know what? When we go out and do these events, instead of looking like a mob with a bunch of rifles, let's carry flags and signs. Then people know that we're out there as a protest or as a rally, and no one can, in their right mind, call the police and say they're afraid of guys carrying signs and flags. I mean, what criminal runs around with a big giant red flag and getting ready to rob a bank or shoot up a school? I mean, it just doesn't happen. They don't want to do that. And so what we did was, over the last year, since that first 6 months, our 911 call efforts have dropped to almost zero. And, there are sometimes where people will call 911, but we've also succeeded in getting call dispatchers trained so that if someone does call, they typically offer, follow-up questions like, well, how many are there? 10. Well, what are they doing? Well, they're holding signs and flags. And generally, our rule is, whenever we do an event, we always call law enforcement. And that way, when they do get that call, the call center can say, yes, ma'am, we're aware of that. That's Open Carry, Texas. They're out there. They're not pointing guns at anybody, are they? No, they're just out there. And, okay, yeah, we're aware of it. What they're doing is perfectly legal. So that's how things have changed, from constant harassment by law enforcement to, education for both the call takers and the law enforcement to have to respond to those calls.
Some of the, and certainly I've criticized Open Carry Texas, but it almost seems like my criticisms is for a group that's no longer associated with Open Carry Texas. It seems like that some of the criticism that Open Carry Texas has gotten actually is directed at the group that's no longer a part of Open Carry Texas. Is certainly what it seems like.
Yeah, and let me give you a brief history of sort of how all these groups came to be. So Open Carry Texas was created in June. In about November of 2013, the group split into two groups, and that was Come and Take It Texas, and then Open Carry Texas continued. And that's why both groups basically had the same birth date, because we were the same, and then we split into two groups because of two varying philosophies. And what happened was this Tarrant County group was a part of Come and Take It Texas, and they got rid of them for the same reasons. They didn't want to. They were more about just causing trouble and doing their own thing than they were about actually trying to get stuff done and be a productive advocacy group. Well, then about a month later, I had a discussion with Corey Watkins and his, I don't know if it was a board or just a group of leaders or whatever. And the thought was that we can kind of mold and mentor these guys to do the right thing and to be productive and be a good advocacy group. And so we took them under our wing in January of 2014. Well, that didn't take long. They refused to abide by our rules about contacting police officers. They refused to abide by our rules of refraining from taking firearms into, long arms into the businesses anymore, because it was just misdirecting our efforts. The conversation became about, should you carry long arms into a business, and not about passing open carry. So, we recognize that. There's nothing wrong with it, and we still do it today. We just do it differently.
Right.
And so when that happened, by about March or April, we ended up having to also drop Open Carry Tarrant County. And so they became their own group, and we just continued on. And we actually started up our own Tarrant County chapter, which most of the people in Tarrant County definitely know the difference between the two of us, because of the way